Hi, I'm Adam, and this is week 37 of Making Dollars and Cents at the box office. So fasten your seatbelts, we are cleared for takeoff. Landing the #1 spot this week with $35 million was Clint Eastwood's Sully, starring Tom Hanks. It tells the story of Chesley Sullenberger, who landed a plane in the Hudson River back in January of 2009 with 155 passengers on board, but none of them were injured, except for the geese that got hit. Now, this is one of those movies that's pretty obviously Oscar bait. It took a true-to-life story, added in some dramatic liberties of things that didn't actually happen just to make it more interesting, tossed in Tom Hanks as the lead role, but on top of everything, it came out the weekend of 9/11. So planes are already on everyone's mind, and it just feels like Clint Eastwood is kind of pandering to everyone's emotions, which, if you saw American Sniper, is kind of a forte of his. But with all of that said, the inaccuracies in the lawsuit seem to have flown under the radar with critics and audiences, with many of them praising Tom Hanks' performance, which obviously, and he's Tom Hanks, but also the performance of Aaron Eckhart, who really needs to be in more movies. And sure, $35 million isn't really a sky-high number, but it is over half the budget. And a movie like this probably has a ton of staying power, especially considering once Oscar nominations roll out and it gets one that it is so clearly begging for, it's probably going to be a long time before we see this plane land. The #2 spot this week belongs to When the Bow Breaks, an erotic thriller starring Regina Hall and Morris Chestnut, which raked in $14 million on a $10 million budget. Despite being panned by critics, the success of this film is largely due to the fact that it's the only new PG-13 movie that would appeal to this crowd. Because let's be real, they're not going to go see Sully because that was probably made for their grandparents, and they're still not old enough to see Don't Breathe. And speaking of Don't Breathe, it took the #3 spot this week with $8 million, so it's pretty clear that When the Bow Breaks didn't draw too much of that 17+ crowd. The other newcomer this week was The Wildlife, which surprisingly ended up at the #5 spot. It earned $3.4 million, which really isn't too shabby for a movie that looks like a straight-to-DVD, $5 bin sort of distraction for 2-year-olds. But looking ahead to this weekend, we finally get to see Adam Wingard's sequel to the Blair Witch Project, simply titled Blair Witch. Every early review of this movie has been buzzing, saying that it's a worthy sequel to the 1999 classic. So between that and its brilliant marketing campaign, this looks like it's going to be another great horror movie, especially on the heels of Don't Breathe. Also opening this weekend is Bridget Jones's Baby, the third in the trilogy starring Renee Zellweger, and Snowden, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which is about, you guessed it, Edward Snowden. And if you don't know who that is, go read his Wikipedia article right now because you really haven't been paying attention to anything, but your phone has. Thanks for watching. Go see something this weekend, anything at all. Keep movie houses in business, and we will see you next time on Making Dollars and Cents.